Hey house guests, welcome to today's Big Brother 17 updates and spoilers. Our house guest of the day is Gelsey Kane. Gelsey, thank you so much for the awesome email, and hey to your 8-year-old. I'm glad you guys are watching together. Alright, so Gelsey wants to know, if I could pick the BB takeover twist for the week, what would it be? That's a great question. It's been a while since we've had a takeover, huh? I think mine would involve punishments because I'm evil. Maybe set up some sort of like Big Brother swear jar. Like whenever somebody says, under the bus, or like blood on my hands, or, you know, those key Big Brother phrases, they should get like some sort of punishment. I think that'd be really fun. Also, maybe like some sort of punishment for throwing competitions, because that gets really annoying after a while. Yeah, I don't know, something like that. What would you guys pick as your Big Brother takeover twist? Let me know in the comments. Alright, so let's talk about where we are. So yesterday, James and Meg were prepping for their Operation Trojan Horse presentation. So if you guys missed yesterday's spoiler, basically the plan is to get Austin and Johnny Mac to flip their votes, vote out Julia this week, and then they can blame Austin's vote on Steve. So that's some incentive for Austin to go through with this plan. So they want to speak with the two of them separately so that it won't look suspicious. Was that a bark? And they want to do this at night because they can't have people like seeing what's going on here. They can't let people in on what's going on. So they're really excited about the plan. They think that there's a possibility that it could work, and James and Meg would both stay in the game this week. We'll see. So Julia is still freaking out a bit because she saw Steve and Johnny Mac talking to the goblins, and Vanessa reassures her, like, everyone has promised their vote this week except for James, so you're fine. Just relax. Like, I know you're gonna get paranoid being up on the block, but just, like, chill out. So then Vanessa's like, if you want some extra insurance, like, maybe you should make a deal with Johnny Mac. You know, Vanessa loves her deals. So she's like, you could promise Johnny Mac you won't put him up next week if he votes for you to stay. And Julia's like, I don't know. I don't really want to do that. Because she's saying if she wins HOH, she would nominate Johnny Mac and James. Because if James wins the power of veto, she's going to have to get rid of somebody else. So she thinks that that person should be Johnny Mac. So then Vanessa was saying, it might be better to keep Johnny Mac over Steve. What? I'm surprised Vanessa would say that. In a way, it makes sense because Johnny Mac is really only close to Vanessa in the house right now, so of course she would want to keep him, whereas Steve is close to, you know, he's got, I don't know if he's close to everyone, but he's got relationships with, like, the Oz twins, so Vanessa's thinking, yeah, there's more of a chance that Johnny Mac would actually make a big move than Steve. But I'm surprised that she would say that to Julia. So then Austin and Steve were chatting out by the pool, and they agree James needs to be the target next week. They need to keep after him. It's the best move to protect the Scamper Squad. I don't know. Would they actually go through with that? I think that Steve would. I'm not totally sure that Austin would. But Austin is wondering now if he made a mistake going after Johnny Mac last week because he feels like he can really trust him. He says that he wanted to go after James, but he was afraid that he would come back into the house. I don't know. But then they were talking about the next HOH competition, and they're both considering throwing it. They feel like they're in a really good spot this week, and they feel comfortable with it. Also, they don't want to be unable to compete in the double eviction, and they all think that the double eviction is happening next week. So I think they're going to be a little bit surprised when they find out it's tomorrow. So Steve and Vanessa were then chatting up in the HOH room, and Vanessa is also saying, yes, we need to go after James next week, which is kind of confusing again because I thought that Vanessa wanted herself, Steve, and Johnny Mac to go after the Oz twins. But it seems like she only wants that to happen if Johnny Mac wins the HOH and is able to do the dirty work for them. I guess she doesn't feel like Steve should do that if he wins HOH. Or maybe she just knows that he's not going to do it because he's kind of a wussy. So she's saying, yeah, we're going to go to the final 6 with the Oz twins and just hope that Johnny Mac wins the HOH, so he can get it done. But if the Oz twins end up winning the HOH when they get to the final 6, they're just gonna have to cut Johnny Mac loose and go to the final 5 with the Scamper Squad. Boo! Alright, so last night was kind of crazy because Megaphone Dude was back. Remember from last season, that guy that kept showing up with the megaphone? It was going on and on, but he was back last night. I don't know if it was the same guy, but you never know. So James, Meg, and Johnny Mac were all outside at the time, and the dude was like, Austin wants Julia out, and they totally heard it. A couple minutes later, Big Brother finally called for an indoor lockdown. It was kind of weird that they waited so long to call for that lockdown. It's almost like they wanted them to hear. Imagine, this is a conspiracy theory, but imagine if the megaphone person was like Big Brother production. That'd be crazy. Okay, so James and Johnny Mac talk in the have-not room. They haven't told anybody that wasn't outside what was said, but Johnny Mac was like, I just read in the manual that we're not allowed to talk about what we heard, but he was like, you guys should consider campaigning. Hint, hint. So they were kind of like skirting around what was said, but it was like obvious that they were talking about it. So James was like, well, we gotta get Austin's vote. Like, we might have a chance here. Let's get something going. So Johnny Mac was like, well, maybe Austin is gonna vote Julia out and then try to pin it on either me or Steve. So now not only Vanessa, but also Johnny Mac has figured out Operation Trojan Horse before James and Meg have even pitched it. So then they were talking about it a little bit more and the possibility of getting the votes to keep Meg this week. Johnny Mac was kind of playing along with it, but I don't know if he would actually do it. So then James and Meg were chatting alone in the have-not room, and they're getting a little nervous because Johnny Mac just went up to the HOH room. They know he's up there, and they know that Steve, Vanessa, and Austin are also up there. So they're just like, they just voted John out last week. Like, why is he up there? He never hangs out up there. What's going on? So they're worried that he is spilling their plan to everybody else. Just for the record, he didn't, but they don't know that. It's kind of interesting that he didn't, you know, spill all that info. But then they're wondering, like, is the whole house against us? Are we the outsiders in like a whole house alliance? Pretty much. So this week there hasn't really been any potball or bowling. The new it game is chess. So all the house guests were hanging out around the chess table except for James and Meg, who were chilling in the have-not room just like being weirdos. So they're getting really serious about the chess. They've been doing this for a couple nights now. Steve even made a timer yesterday, like one of those sand timers to speed up the game a little bit because it was getting boring. I'm not sure if he put like salt or protein powder or what, but he put some unidentified powder-like substance. It wasn't Coke, don't worry. In 2 shaker bottles, so that's pretty cool. Engineer. Alright, so last night, Julia took a quick break from the exciting chess action, and I mean quick, to campaign to Johnny Mac. This conversation lasted for pretty much, I'm serious, like a minute in the cabana room. So Julia was like, Johnny Mac, you're not my target, what can I promise you to ensure your vote? And John was just like, whoa, like, I wasn't even expecting a deal, because he was just going to give her his vote anyway, but he was just like, well, don't put me up if you win HOH, and she's just like, okay, whatever, I can do that. So they agreed to the deal, conversation over. Okay, so the Scamper Squad stayed up really late last night on purpose to prevent any goblin campaigning. So the Scamper Squad was talking about like past game moves and stuff, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so at like 3 a.m. last night, Meg finally got a chance to talk to Austin in the bathroom area. So she's kind of just like feeling him out at first, seeing, you know, if there's any chance that he would vote out Julia. And Austin's just like, basically, he can't vote her out this week. It's too soon in the game. He would look like a scumbag, and Liz would be pissed. So before Meg can even present the Operation Trojan Horse, Julia busts up this conversation. This is why they stayed up last night. The night before was a huge wake-up call. Julia realized she's gonna have to put in some work. So yeah, that happened. This morning, Vanessa was talking to Johnny Mac before everybody else got up, and she was like, the twins were really nervous yesterday because they saw you hanging out with the goblins in the have-not room. And Johnny Mac is like, yeah, I'm going to tell you, like, they were campaigning. He didn't really give the details, but he's like, it's all good, you guys, I'm still with you, don't worry. So then Vanessa's like, all right, well, I want you to start working on James a bit, see if we can kind of make sure that he's going to go after the Oz twins if he wins HOH. And Johnny Mac's like, all right, sounds good. So the house guests today got to practice for 1 hour for an upcoming competition. I'm assuming it's for the first HOH in tomorrow's double eviction. So it was like this curved ramp, and they had these balls that they would throw onto the ramp, and then they had to like twist it around and try and land it in these different slots. Okay, seems pretty fun. So like I said, they only got an hour to practice that. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know, it's eviction eve. Will Meg still try to campaign? She still hasn't really presented her idea to Austin, but is that dead? I don't know. Would it even work? We'll see. But I want to know, who else do you guys think is going to go home tomorrow? I think it's pretty certain that Meg will be the first evictee, but who will be following her? Let me know. And until tomorrow, much love. Edit.